Hello tanks and tankettes, welcome to a pair of viewer replays, and today I've picked out two which share something in common. They've both got a medal as a result that you wouldn't necessarily expect given the tank you'll be seeing. Now obviously once we get to the end of this one the surprise will be spoiled for the next one, but I've saved the better replay till last, or possibly the more surprising replay, maybe I should put it that way. We're starting off with this one from Captain Kemen. I can only apologise profusely. Captain Kremen, even. I mean, with the amount that I spoonerise words sometimes, it was only a matter of time before it all went horribly wrong with somebody's name in particular. But anyway, Kremen here, I'm pretty sure I've featured previously. I mean, he's obviously a Kenny Everett fan, and I am at least aware of the work of Kenny Everett. And I know for a fact I've bumped into him in random battles previously as well, because it's just one of those names that sticks in the mind. Now he's in the VK4502A, and if you're not aware, this is the counterpart to the Tiger II. It has, I think it's fair to say, a less good gun but superior mobility. And this thing actually, the best point of comparison is the FCM50T. And that's appropriate because there's a platoon of 3 of them on the enemy team. So this is good matchmaking, and the enemy team don't really have any armour at the top, so that might well be important. He's actually platooned up himself with an IS-3 and a Lerva, and he's going in with this IS-3 to, well, it doesn't look like they've got, the enemy team's got a lot of presence in the town. They're actually able to get the jump on this Tiger one and steal half of his health in one go. And this thing has an okay gun. It's a bit lacking in penetration, but in terms of damage, 320 average is not half bad. The armour on this is also not particularly great, although it will sometimes give you bounces, as there, and he actually side-scrapes that rather nicely. You wouldn't be able to get away with that against a lot of guns, but that kind of holds true for the armour on this generally. It is decent against lower tiers, but you wouldn't really want to rely on it especially. And I think armour-wise is actually maybe a bit better than the FCM, although that might have the better upper front plate. But overall, I would say this may well have the better armour. But the FCM is superior undoubtedly in one regard, in that it has limited matchmaking, and this does not. In fact, the FCM actually has more pen as well, but less damage, so it kind of evens out. So he's already racked up 1,000 damage. It's only taken a couple of hits to do so. It doesn't hit quite as hard as the IS-3 gun, but there are times when this thing really can come into its own. And in fact, my best ever XP to game in World of Tanks remains in this tank. And that's actually a video you can go and look up on the channel. It's rather an older one at this point, but it's there. So he takes out one of the FCMs. That's a nice low health kill. And if he's lucky, he can get the T69 as well, which he does. Very nice. And this is the point where the matchmaking comes in pretty useful, because the FCMs making up the bulk of the enemy top tiers, well, they don't have a lot of armour. They've got to rely on their wits, basically. And it's not, honestly, a platoon you see that often. I mean, the FCM can be rather, like this, rather powerful, but because they went in a platoon of 3 of them, that rather ended up giving their team a disadvantage in terms of heavy tanks. So he's killed another FCM, that's his 4th kill, and although they're on the back foot a bit, he has still got all of his health. His IS-3 ally is also still, I think, pretty healthy at this stage as well, but he does have to be wary about getting hit by artillery in particular, because of all the remaining enemy machines, artillery is probably the thing that could do the greatest amount of damage, especially if there was a side or rear shot. So the enemy are pressing on the friendly cap. There is a Rheinmetall defending, but with artillery, you know, again, artillery will make short work of that Rheinmetall if he's not being smart and staying in cover, which he probably is. You don't go up the Waffenträger line and not learn to use cover effectively. His IS-3 ally takes out the remaining FCM, but unfortunately is immediately nuked by artillery in return, and that was the tier 8 arty as well, so I think he was still at half health, something like that, so he just got the remaining hit points of his tank just completely obliterated there, which is a bit unfortunate. But despite the numbers being kind of against them, I mean, they're not out of it yet. These are not particularly healthy enemies, apart from that T29. Now he's left the KV-3 on low health. The AT-15 is now an easy one-shot. Although he's a little bit lucky with his shot there. It looked like he was aiming more towards the front plate, the frontal armour, which he was probably anticipating the guy driving forwards, but as it was, it actually deviated enough to pen the side armour instead. Meanwhile, the KV-3's died, and that just leaves this T-29, and he's actually, well, there we go, nice bounce. He's actually more or less in arty cover at the moment, although not quite. That was a bit of a lucky miss. 0 damage splash. Didn't even turn his tracks yellow, but it was close enough to register. So that's 3,000 damage done, and 6 kills. And, you know, if this was just a Top Gun, it'd be a rather cheap Top Gun, but we're not done yet. So far we've had, I mean, he's hoovered up a lot of low health enemies, and he's done a respectable amount of damage anyway, but it now comes down to an SU-100Y, who we know is still at the base, because the very low health Cromwell has spotted him for us, and their 3 artillery. And the artillery, well, that could be nasty, especially if he gets hit by multiple arties at once. So there's the SU. Takes the time to aim a bit, but sadly it doesn't do anything. However, he bounces the shot in return, and that's rather lucky because that thing obviously hits very hard, and it has more than enough pen to punch through the front of this armour. Absolutely no problems there. Now the Cromwell, yeah, I mean, at this point the Cromwell I think is just trying to stay alive, so I can't blame him for not being particularly active at this stage. He's not wanting to just give his tank away. The longer you can stay alive, even on low health, it's always desirable in this kind of situation because you can't really do any good with a dead tank. You might be down to your last hit point, literally, but if you still have a functional gun, you can change the outcome of the battle rather drastically. Talking about rather drastic changes, yes, that was most of his health in one go. A hit from the SU-100Y and a very big hit from that M40-43. And I didn't quite manage to kill the M12, and he's actually he's got a limited stock of HE ammo on this thing, and he's actually queued up HE as his next shell, and he wants to try and take out these arties with one hit. So he finishes off the M12. Which was, I mean, he had to stop to take the shot, and you do quite often have to stop to take the shot in this tank. But actually, I mean, the gun handling is as good, if not better, than the, oh, there we go, that was a very important one, than the FCM, which is generally thought of as having pretty reasonable gun handling. So he managed to snapshot that guy, and it was kind of lucky that the HE actually went where he wanted it to, because an AP pen would not have killed the guy, and if his HE had I don't know, gone in the tracks or whatever, that well could have been the end of him right there if the M40-43 had been able to get off a shot in return. Although, I mean, if you're in that kind of situation, it really does come down to the RNG. It's like who fires first and who the RNG favours. And there we go. Whereas with a French arty, with a very soft, squashy superstructure, that's a much better target for your HE shells. So that was a Pools medal, Ace Mastery of course, Pascucci's, which is always nice to see, Top Gun, and a high caliber. Now, given that he had 10 kills, he didn't actually do that much damage, and I've seen higher damage games with this tank for sure, but still, nearly 1600 base XP even, and the mobility of it came in very useful at the end there. I mean, the friendly Rheinmetall did a fair whack of damage as well. That was an extra 4,000, the WZ did 2,700, his IS-3 ally did 1,100, and the rest of the team not so much. So the damage was kind of spread between him and the Rheinmetall, but he ended up getting all the kills, and Pools medals can be like that sometimes. The easiest way to get a Pools medal, as if it's easy, you know, I've only got one myself, is to end up in a situation kind of like that one where you have a lot of low health enemies running around and you can just hoover them up one after the other, and that is a situation where actually the gun, I mean, with that matchmaking, the gun had enough damage and it had enough pen that he wasn't having to reload to take second shots to get a lot of those kills. So the qualities of the VK actually kind of worked out there, but still, it's not really a tank you would think of as being something that would get a Pools medal. Next up, we have a Ferdinand. Yeah, I bet you weren't expecting that, huh? A Pools medal in a Ferdinand. Well, we'll see exactly how it goes down. This is Koala Bear 123, although he's slightly misspelt it. It's more like Koala Bear 123, but I'm guessing it was supposed to be Koala Bear. Maybe that was already taken. Some expat Aussie had snaffled up the name and, oh, I don't know. Anyway, The 30, I mean, it's not particularly well regarded these days. You have the option when you're going up the Jagdpanzer E100 line of going through the Jagdpanther 2 or the 30, and the received advice generally is go for the Jagdpanther 2. It's got the same gun, you don't really miss out in terms of having a lower reload, it's got better speed, I think it turns better, and pardon me, although the hull armour is weaker, well, the hull armour on this isn't great either. I mean, it's got the Tiger P's hull, at least frontally, so you've got 200mm plate on part of the front, but you've also got those 80mm corners, which are very easy to pen. However, if somebody's having to make a snapshot against you, as that KV-85 was having to, well, you're probably going to do alright. I mean, it's like the Tiger P. If somebody has time to stop and aim, that might be a problem, but if you're in a position where you can make somebody rush their shots, well, that probably will go okay for you. Now, a big chunk of the Allied team came over into the town. However, pretty much none of the enemy team did. It was literally 2 tanks, and both of those were tier 6s. So we're in this position on Ensk, and it's going to be important that it's Ensk, because that's not a particularly big map. That, well, you can't really get fast enough around an enemy team a lot of the time in this kind of situation, because they just sweep up whatever tanks you had, and yes, that was a one-shot. Oh no, it wasn't. Somebody else hit him. Oh no, it was. No, it wasn't. Somebody else hit him at the same time. Okay, I confused myself there. Yeah, by the time you've swept round behind and you've realised what's going on, generally any allies you might have had remaining on the field side have been swept up, and that's pretty much what's happened here. The only tanks the enemy have really lost on the field is an IS, and everything else has been from these guys coming round behind. So, although there's a couple of tank destroyers left, I mean, they're both tier 6s. In fact, one's a tier 5. They're not going to last very long. So he managed to bounce that shot from the enemy 30 rather nicely. And this guy, I mean, he's kind of angled and... and he just turns that shot. Now, I don't know if that wiggle was on purpose. It's a little bit risky showing his side armour like that, but it did work. I have no idea if that was intentional, but regardless, he's still got full health, and that's going to be pretty useful. So that's his 4th kill. There's still a bunch of enemies left alive. They are very much on the back foot at the moment, and, well, we can see the IS-3 in the cap. Well, the VK is not going to last. So they might have an IS-3 coming up behind them, or the IS-3 might decide to cap, but either way, that's something they don't immediately have to face, though. So it maybe is actually kind of useful, although the VK is probably feeling the pain a bit right now. And there's about to be kill number 5. There we go. That T-25-2 being a little bit incautious. And, oh, we can see there's a Tiger back there as well. Okay. So, of the remaining enemy top tiers, well, we know the IS-3 is, and the T-32 has a very weak hull. So, potentially, this could actually be a pretty reasonable situation to be in something like a 30, because the lower pen of a T-32 as well, it's like the VK, it's got, I think, just about 200mm of pen, although I think it does slightly less damage, but of course, whereas the VK has speed, the T-32 has the hull, not the hull armour, it really doesn't have the hull armour, it has the turret armour. Let's see who gets this VK kill. Let's see, this guy on 16 health. This guy, yes, no, it's Koala Bear even. Oh, that's not the worst mangling of a name I've done today, it really isn't. So the IS-3 must be capping because the T-20 just shot him in the butt, so we know exactly where that guy is. T-32's turned around to try and deal with these guys, and crucially, I mean, Koala Bear isn't having to do this all alone, he still does have some allies left. And that's 2 in the caps, the T-150 must be there as well, or possibly the T-29. So, this is not like he's having to face lots and lots of enemies on his own, which would be potentially bad in a tank like this. And, oh, doesn't get that kill, so 4 enemy tanks left, he's got to kill 3 of them to get that pools, and there's the T-29, still full health. So, if he was the sole focus of a lot of enemy fire, he possibly wouldn't be doing nearly so well here, but as it is, he has by far the biggest gun of any of the remaining allied tanks, so not only is he already over the amount of damage that Captain Kremen managed to do in the previous battle, but he's not even done yet. That's kill number 8, so that's the Radley Walters been and gone. So he's just got to get 2 more, and that IS-3, well, he's full health. The T-20 is actually behind them at this point, so they may not get that guy because he's tangling with the IS-6, and there we go. So Koala has to kill these 2 remaining tanks here, that are in front of him. And it kind of makes sense that it would be the ones in front of him that he has to kill, because this thing doesn't... It's not particularly flexible. And that's why I was saying that it's important that it's Ensk, that it's a smaller map, because although he's had to drive all around the map on Ensk, that doesn't take that long, even in a tank like the Ferdinand. Now this guy's taken a little bit of damage, but I actually think, I mean he could take the shot, but I think he's reached the stage where he's like, 9 kills, I want this, I want a Pools medal. And there we have it. That's how you get a Pools medal in a 30. And we've all been there. Well, those of us that have got a Pools medal, and for me it was just one, you get to that certain point in the battle, well even when you have a close call with a Pools medal, you get to that certain point in the battle and you think, I've got a shot at this, I've got a chance. And most of the time it doesn't pan out because it's quite hard to... 10 kills is really hard to do. But when it does, oh, it feels so good. It really does. And it took me a very long time to get mine. And that's another one you can find on the... maybe I should have thrown that one in as well, even though I've already covered it in the past. It wouldn't make any sense. But that was a Pools medal in a Type 58 of all things. And I didn't particularly get on well with the Type 58. But I managed a Pools medal in it, so it can't be totally terrible, I suppose. But, so there we go, that's a Pools medal in a 30, and yeah, both of these ended up being tier 8 Germans, and maybe there was one I overlooked that was even more improbable, but still, I felt both of these were not particularly machines that you would think of. You know, you'd think of medium tanks, you'd think of maybe well-armoured heavies that could withstand a lot of attacks, you'd think of things with really powerful guns, although the 30 does have a good gun, you know, I suppose to be fair, but you would think of things with turrets, things with mobility, and, well, the VKA kind of fulfills some of those as well, but yeah, neither of them would immediately spring to my mind as being good machines to go for a Pools medal in, but I don't know, does one ever go for a Pools medal? I don't think so. I think it just happens through serendipity and through keeping your head, and in the case of Koala Bear there, timing his last shot to secure that last kill, because he wanted it. He wanted it so bad. So, if you enjoyed this pair of replays, you can leave any comments below, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe to my channel, and, as always, stay tuned for more.